Hello, I'm Keith Madison. I'm a 1969 graduate of Edmonson County High School. Yeah, and actually, I didn't get drafted. It was after the draft. I was playing Legion ball at Bowling Green, which Coach Van Meter set that up for me so that I could play. We had to try out. In those days, there was only one Legion team and probably a 10-county area. So you had the best players from Barron County, Warren County, Simpson County, Edmonson County, Butler County, all the counties around there. And you had to try out. If I remember correctly, there must have been like 70 or 75 players trying out for a 25-man roster. And I mean, and Bowling Green High School was so good in baseball back in those days. So I knew that most of the team was going to be the Bowling Green High boys, and I felt, like the country boy coming and trying to take one of their spots. I have to tell you this story about Miss Chloe Webb. When I was in the 7th grade, I turned in a very subpar paper. We were supposed to write on something, and obviously I didn't put much thought into it. So she called me to the front of the classroom, and she was very short, and I was already about 5'9" at that time, so I sort of towered over her. And she said, what are you doing turning in a paper like this?
He was such a sweet, good. I'm not saying this because he's my son, but it's the truth. He was a sweet child, but now him and Tommy, they were so close, and they played together all the time. And the first thing, when they got big enough, they were throwing a baseball.
Well, I remember we snuck off and went swimming way back behind where he used to live, and I don't know the name of the place, but there was a big pool back there. Everybody in Lindsayville knows where it is, but and we didn't have swimming trunks, so we just went ahead anyway, and that was probably one of the funniest. But
well, Keith and I were really fortunate in that we got to play Little League baseball together. He was 2 years behind me, so he hadn't really developed his pitching skills to the point that they were going to be at that time, but we got to be on the same baseball team. So during the week, there wasn't a day that went by that I didn't want to practice catching, because I was a catcher for our baseball team, and Keith would practice pitching. So I will not take any credit for his pitching abilities at all. That was all taught by somebody else, but we did get to practice a lot, and that may have helped him some as he matured.
It made me feel sad in a way because I knew he'd have to leave home. I didn't want him to leave home. But me and Holman, when he went to South Dakota, me and Holman took him to Louisville and to catch the plane. And that was a sad time. Mm-hmm. I was proud of him in a way, but it made me sad for him to leave home. And of course, we went to see him. We took his car up to him, and Holman drove his car up, and I followed him in our car all the way to South Dakota, and I had never driven any farther than Bowling Green.
And I went to a payphone, called my dad, collect, and said, "Dad, you're not going to believe this, but I met 2 pro scouts today, and they gave me cards to fill out." And he said, "Well, that's good, son." He said, "Don't put too much into that, but that's good." So anyway, within a week, the scout from the Expos came to our house and met with my mom and dad. I was only 17 years old, so they had to sign for me. And my dad did a smart thing. He said, Keith wants to go to college, and he's trying to get a baseball scholarship, and Murray State's offered him a scholarship. And I'm afraid if he just goes to play pro ball, he'll never get his education. And the scout said, well, Major League Baseball has a program now where they can pay for tuition anywhere you want to go to college.
We played basketball together all the way from 6th grade on, and baseball. And you could just tell early Keith just had a special knack for baseball. He just, I know I was batting when we were playing Bowling Green High, and they were real strong. And we hadn't lost a game that year in Bowling Green, hadn't. And we were playing them here at Brownsville, and K-Don Van Meter was our coach. And he changed our signals that morning from what had been the bunt or, whatever, from whatever he was doing to just walking over and kicking the bag. Well, here we are, got one out, Keith's on third base, I'm batting, last inning. All I got to do is lay down a bunt, and we won this ball game. Well, I looked, K-Don's just sailing around down there. I didn't pay any attention to him. He's kicking the fire out of that bag down there. I'm waiting for the other signal, just forgot it that quick. So anyway, here come the pitch in there. Well, I didn't swing, because if you do a sacrifice, you bunt it no matter where it's at, and then he slides in while all that's going on. And anyway, the catcher was sitting there with the ball waiting for him because I didn't do what I was supposed to do.
So I called and I was shocked the secretary put me through. I told her I was interested in talking to Mr. Hagan about the coaching position that was open, and he took my call and he said, can you be here at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning? And I said, absolutely. So I drove up from Lindsayville to Lexington, went into Mr. Hagan's office, and he had this big desk and his chair was high, and he was a big guy, he was 6'5". And then the seat I was sitting in across from his desk was real low, and it was like I was looking up at this basketball icon. But we had a good visit, and then we got back to Starkville, where our little apartment was. We walk in, and the phone's ringing. And as soon as I pick up the phone, it's Mr. Hagan, and he said, hey, let's do a more formal interview. We're going to fly you up to Lexington, and I'll tell you more about the job. So did that, came back to Starkville after the interview, which I thought went pretty well. And a couple of days go by, and he calls and offers me the job. And we had this little phone in the kitchen, and I'll never forget going in the kitchen, talking to Cliff Hagan. He's offering me the job. The pay was lousy. It was really a part-time position with no benefits, but it was a chance to be the head coach at an SEC school. And that night I came to Christ, and I surrendered my life to Him as a 12-year-old. I think He had plans for me, and they were good plans. It doesn't mean it was easy, but Sharon and I persevered, through the minor league years and through the lean years at Kentucky, since I finished my coaching career at Kentucky, the awards and everything, it's surreal. It's like, first of all, without God's hand being on me and without Him giving me the opportunities. I mean, that whole story about, turning down a junior college job and getting a job at Kentucky, that's not because I had a great interview. That was because it was God's will.
He was different because the way he talked about his players and his team, he was not only interested in what his players could do for him, but he was invested in his players.
Sharon was the perfect baseball wife for me, the perfect coach's wife, because I know a lot of spouses like to talk shop when they get home. I never wanted to do that. I was involved in baseball from 7 o'clock in the morning, sometimes until 11 o'clock at night. I would work a full day, and sometimes she didn't even ask me who won. I was really good with that. Now, when she could, she was always there. She was always at the games with the kids. She would be managing a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old and running all over the place. She supported me very well in that respect, but she didn't want to know all the details.
I'm Sharon Madison. Keith and I have been married going on 52 years this August, and we live in Wilmore, Kentucky. Now, Keith and I met, it was a blind date, and he was going to take me someplace special, so we went bowling. And I am not a bowler, and I think the first thing I thought about Keith is he was so cocky, because when he bowled, he did very well, and of course when I did, it was the gutter ball. But we had another date, and the second date was fun. And in the second date, we both laughed so hard. We watched a silly movie. I can't think of the name of it, but the movie made us laugh so hard. And we were both at Western at that time. And so it was a good way to get to know each other and to get to find out if we got along.
Absolutely a mentor, somebody I look up to this day. But don't let him fool you or Mrs. Madison fool you. They are the two nicest people you'll ever meet. But Coach is a fierce competitor as well, and he loves to win. But what I respect so much about him is that he never let the performance of his athletes come before his relationship with his players and what he cared about them.
Well, I was here as an assistant coach the first time and had the privilege of meeting him and getting to know his heart, not only for UK baseball, but most importantly, the Lord. And we just always had a connection. So fast forward to the summer of 2016, I get hired as the head baseball coach, and he is one of the first people to reach out to me and just say, hey, Coach, I know you're new, I know you're getting everything started, but I want you to know if there's anything I can do for you or this program, you just let me know.
Well, it was incredible because Coach, I think we're all on the same page that we use baseball as a tool, as an opportunity to speak into the lives of other people that maybe aren't of faith, that don't know about Jesus Christ, and we use baseball as a tool to be able to share the gospel. And so watching Coach outside the foul lines in a setting like the Dominican Republic where he's sharing the gospel has been encouraging, challenging, inspirational, and just love that he's willing, even post coaching at UK, be willing to put himself out there and still, caring about people and loving people and using baseball to share Christ.
I'll never forget this, but the first time he ever met with us, I was a first-time head coach. I'd never been a head coach at any level, never Little League, never T-ball, never high school. And he looked me and the rest of our coaches right in the eye that very first Bible study, and he said, Nick, if you do these things, I can guarantee you'll have a successful season. And I was like, all right, let me hear it. Like, what in the world could this be? And he asked us to do 3 things. He asked us to pray for our coaches, pray for our players, and pray for our players' parents. And so that year, I did it. I took his advice and I did it. We had this magical season, and there's no doubt in my mind that one of the main reasons why we had all that success was because of what he asked us to do. And there's something powerful about praying, and to pray for those groups of people. The first 2, I was like, oh, that's easy. But I was like, you want me to pray for our parents too? But sure enough, that's what we did, and it has just been amazing. And then, even him and Miss Sharon, they asked us to memorize a Bible verse every week.
They come exploding out of that Wildcat dugout.
Keith Madison gets his win and his 25-year coaching career.
The third out at third base, and that's the end.